is a no-till field. We're nearing the end of corn planting season, so this cover crop's a little bigger than what we're accustomed to. So we're rolling it down first. It's a mix of cereal rye, some barley, and then some crimson clover. That's one of the thinner spots of the field. But so what we'll do is we'll go in and crimp it, and then plant it in the same direction, and that'll keep us from covering up the rows with the cover crop. We like to plant all of our fields green. This year, every field that we plant will be green, whether it's corn or soybeans. We like that because we like the living roots in the soil as we plant. If this field had been sprayed off, it'd still be wet. But because we have all these roots still growing, it makes it so that the row cleaners and the closing wheels of the planter will act and work much better. Had we killed it off, the soil would not be nearly as alive. It wouldn't have the health and the tilth to it. So by keeping it alive, we think that it's much easier to plant through. We're hoping that translates into yields, but currently, after a couple really wet springs, we found that this really helps us to be able to plant sooner, but also have the ground be more fit to avoid sidewall compaction and different things like that. It makes it so that the ground is always fit to plant, and we can typically get on the ground a little sooner than others. The other advantage is that if it gets dry, the soil will actually stay more moist in the presence of all this cover crop because it's shaded, so it doesn't dry out as fast. So as the ground's starting to get hard, we don't have the same issues that we would if we had killed it off or the soil was bare. So the planter is a 60-foot John Deere. It's a 24-row. We plant our corn on 30-inch centers. We run Martin row cleaners. This planter in particular is running a spiked row cleaner with a gauge wheel. The bean planters are running curved tine teeth that interlock. Both of them interlock. Both of them have back guards on them to keep them from twirling up. So we're able to plant through stuff this big without stopping the planters up. Before we went to row cleaners that intertwined and locked each other and kept each other clean, we spent a lot of time cleaning row cleaners out. When it was damp, when it was moist, we couldn't plant. We were stopped, which I didn't like because we want to maintain efficiency even though we're planting green. That's one of our priorities. So these actually have a scraper on the back of them on the inside. So as the row cleaner's going around, it has a scraper on the back side, and that keeps them from getting tangled up. So that's been a huge deal for us, is having row cleaners that would go through basically anything. We can crimp. We try to crimp in the same direction, but even if we're in the opposite direction, they still don't tangle. Inside of that, we have a fertilizer holder. We need a lot of starter. We tend to use starter. We've recently moved to putting in a lot of crimson clover to offset some of the carbon issues with the cereal rye. The cereal rye's probably got a lot of nitrogen in it. So the soil where we used to get mineralization from the nitrogen for the seedlings, we no longer get. All of that mineralized nitrogen is now tied up in this. So we've added our starter. We've upped the rates of our starter. We went from in furrow to 2 inches to the side so that we could reduce the risk of burn. So that goes on 2 by 2 or 2 inches over and almost even with the seeding depth. It's slightly higher than the seeding depth. That was just because of the way the planters work. We didn't want to put it deeper. I would like to have it deeper, but we don't do that because of stones and different things. If that colder hits it, it raises the whole unit up. We're using a serrated blade for the rope, for the disc opener. I'm not sure if I'm sold on those yet or not. We started those this year. They seem to be working well, but that keeps the hair pinning down, hopefully, and cuts the straw more for what ends up in the row. And then for row closers, we've got several different configurations. I like them all for different reasons. This one's running a Yetter paddle wheel, which is made out of cast. It's fairly heavy. We're putting 1 notch of spring down pressure on it in order to get the rows closed. Our other planter, the new configuration that I kind of like this year is a double spike, but we're running treader wheels like our row cleaners on it, and that's worked really nicely. And then we put another, I don't always have to show it to you, but it's a disc that goes around it that keeps it from tangling. So I think we'll probably run 1 planter fully on those, and we might convert half of this planter to those while we run the Yetter paddle on half. But that seemed to work in a lot of conditions. The hardest thing is it's really easy to plant and the soil stays soft, but a lot of times if there's a lot of roots in the soil, as you cut through all those roots, getting them kneaded back together with your closing wheels can be a bit of a challenge. But like I said, those double spikes with a little bit of down pressure before we could run double spikes before we put the treaders on it, before we put those gauge wheels on it, but you couldn't put any pressure on them because then they would go too deep. By having those treader wheels on it, we're able to kind of push some of the soil together, but also spike it to alleviate any compaction in the sidewall using those spikes.